Folks, this is going to be the deciding benefactor on whether we decide to continue to stream live or we go with a pre-recorded show, because lately I have found some issues, some flaws with OBS and my computer, and this computer doesn't run anything special. Like, I don't do much on this computer. Watch a little streaming services, the legal kind. Prime and Netflix and Hulu and shit like that. And I play video games and write documents. Maybe every now and again open up a ebook, but it's mostly entertainment. Like, I don't do anything like dangerous on this PC. Actually, I don't do anything dangerous at all. I kind of tell people not to. So lately, as I've been struggling and on the struggle bus with this game, or with streaming services, I've been trying to fine-tune the game or the stream to where it doesn't buffer. Well, yesterday, as I was streaming another game, because again, I don't typically stream other games, I had noticed that there was some lag, and I'm going to take a look just to make sure that there's no lag going on. Now, I do notice that the stream looks a little depreciated, but not too bad for it being a live stream. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's picking up fairly decent. So let me take a look. Some dude just walked up, and I'll take a look at that. Make sure it's not, it's not a lot of chop going on. It's not the greatest, but it works. You know what I'm saying? But yesterday was so absolutely horrendous to stream, and I noticed it, and I was like, well, I'll let the videos stay up just because you guys can hear me talk. But then the stream started getting disconnected, and then I was getting these, like, they're silent errors, like they show up in the log, but they don't pop up on the screen. And it was just like, like befuddling me. So, I did what I normally do, and I closed out OBS. Well, when I opened it back up just a second ago, it gave me an option to run in safe mode, which is not a very good option at all. So I tend to get a little irritated at, the other shit that they put on these things. Like, it's almost, it feels like damn near every other version of OBS is going to be a bad version. You know what I'm saying? And honestly, like, I know my streams aren't the greatest quality, because I don't care, first off. And secondly, like, nothing I'm using is brand new. Like, most of the stuff I have is like 3 to 5 years old. You know what I'm saying? So it's not really up to par, at least for what I want to do. Greg Gustow is my favorite. So I do with what I've got, and this isn't for money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't post this on all of my social networking. I might, like, if I want to share a game with some friends, but I don't if I want to just goof off. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's more fun this way, to goof off with you guys, than it is to, like, put pressure on myself and then, be like, oh, well, that's what I'm committing to, oh, totally, dude, It's like, no, man. Those guys are going to get through. It's going to be all my fault because I was too cheap to buy a rank 4, but that's okay. We'll fix it. And I took some days off of the game and streaming. I do that from time to time. They're kind of like my mental health days, if you will. They keep me from going batshit crazy, and I'm not going to have enough to do lightning towers. Something is off. Something's very off. It'll probably be over here. That's my prediction. I will be shocked. Yep, it's lightning, and it's going to be lightning towers, by the way. I can almost tell you. Yep. You get to doing this enough times, it's always random where it starts, and it's always random when what it's gonna be, but it's never like once you get the first taste of it out of the way, and like the first wave out of the way, it's predictable. I apologize. Like I said, I've had a very long weekend. I took some mental health days, went to work, had a rough week, just was really hard on myself. I've got a lot going on in my personal life, and I don't really talk about it a whole lot, and that's probably part of my problem. Probably problem for most men is we don't talk about our mental well-being. Just stress, work stress. We're coming out of the down season. We're fixing to gear up and do the thing where we get really busy, but beforehand money was tight, and I'm just restarting everything in my life. I'm not going to go into stupid details because I made a lot of foolish decisions, and I'm a responsible adult enough to talk about the foolish decisions. I moved in 2023 to Nevada with my fiance. And as life typically does hand you lemons, I was unable to make lemonade with that shitty situation. And so over the last year, I pretty much lost everything that I owned. I moved 7,000 miles total to 4 different states to try to restart, and everywhere I went just was no bueno. It went from coming back to where I was originally, like where I grew up at, to being there for a couple of months with my best friend, and then him and his girl going south, and then me, moving again to a even more volatile situation with a toxic roommate, and that going south, mind you, to me having to make some, you know, decisions on how I wanted to restart my life, and opportunities and good people coming into my life that appreciate me being around them, and the things that I do. Um, and so they gave me some opportunity to heal up, and they gave me some opportunity to go out and restart. And I'm blessed with that opportunity, and I talk about it a whole lot. But sometimes the universe has alternate plans for you, and the more that you try to struggle and resist them, the more that you're going to get backlash from the universe. You see what I'm saying? So, for example, like, I knew that if I didn't go to Nevada, that I was going to be in a precarious situation where I was at. I wasn't happy, and I'll be the first to say it. I was not happy with where I was at. Was not happy with what I was doing. You get to a point in life where you realize that you kind of sort of wear yourself thin, and that's where I was at. You know what I'm saying? Like, burnt a lot of bridges, made a lot of bad decisions, pissed off a lot of people in the process. But it's all part of living. You know what I'm saying? It's the adventure. Um, and I don't think that I'm a bad individual. I just think that I made just a boatload of bad decisions. You know what I'm saying? Non drug related, just life decisions. You know what I'm saying? Like, could have sat and pondered on some things, but just had knee jerk reactions and made decisions based off of what I felt was best for me at the time, but wasn't really best for me overall. So, but I've lived through a whole lot and walked out with, like I said, almost next to nothing. And some people don't understand that, but it is just that. You can't, I think we're lagging. You can't always operate, uh, you know, yeah, we're lagging. I think we're going to get disconnected. Honestly, I don't think the video's lagging. I think the game is lagging. I think they're having issues again. We'll go back to our corner and shut up, and then we'll collect our stuff and do the walk of shame, as I like to call it. Because what I want to do is I want to try to knock out quite a bit. I'm behind this week. I knew that coming in like yesterday when I logged in, and this morning, like my first thought process was, "Fuck, I'm like 4 levels behind where I need to be." I took some, I took I think it was like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday away from the game, other than to do, the required clan events and, have my pets go out and do that stuff, my shadow stuff. I didn't do much, so I didn't gain much experience, and that's on me. Again, responsibility, and, to make up for it, I've got to literally do 24 bounties, which is okay for me. A lot of folks just, they play their games. I play mine. I try to stream it. Again, it's not the greatest, but it works. I don't have the best setup, to be honest. I really wish I would have had the capacity to drag my other stuff with me, but I didn't have, I just didn't have the room when I moved. It was kind of like had to, no choice, ordeal. And you only have so much room that you can fit in the back of a Honda. A couple of suitcases, some clothes, and your animal, and your laptop. That's one thing too. You have to separate yourself from the animal. Do you see what I'm saying? And those that have been in tight situations, before, where you've legitimately lost everything, you understand. Like, you've had to make some decisions that weren't always the best decisions, but they were just the decisions that were handed to you, and that was kind of where I was in life. I've never been a drug addict. I've never, I did suffer from alcoholism, but I've been sober for like 10 years, or going on 10 years. I can almost say that now. October will be 10 years. I've decided that I was going to change a lot about myself and calm down, become rational, and, just put, put people that I love into a circle and keep them there. You know what I'm saying? You I'm 45 years old, okay? So in 45 years on my planet, I've met a lot of people, okay? But of the people that I've met, I can honestly say that I might have kept 150, maybe 160 close friends out of the thousands of people that I've met, okay? And some people aren't going to get this, but I did broadcast, so I've probably met tens of thousands of people, maybe even 100,000 people in my life. Shook a lot of hands, kissed a lot of babies. And in that process, you go through these phases of your life where you will lose touch with friends, lose touch with family, lose touch with society, honestly. You'll get so buried in your damn career, and your family, you know what I'm saying, and all the things that are going on in your life, that you'll sometimes forget that, you have friends, and vice versa. Your friends will, do the same thing, with you. And that's not a diss, and, some people take it that way. But a good friendship that's made to last a lifetime will always, almost always, be made to um, legitimately survive the toughest of storms. So if you, have doubts, like your friendships are going to last, or you feel like, you're going through friends real fast, just take a breather for a second. Go out on your own, maybe go start, a conversation with somebody new, or, go out and find a hobby, I'm not saying this to be mean or anything like that, but honestly, like, sometimes you need to take a damn. These guys are all over the place. Sometimes you need a break for yourself, and sometimes your friends need a break from you. And I have a friend who's like obsessed with having a best friend, and luckily, I have managed to stay out of those crosshairs. Um, because one, we dated, so I know her really well, and two, uh, so we were able to have an amicable split to where we were able to preserve the friendship over the course of going on 20 shit a lot longer than that, a while, almost 30 years. So um, what it took was a lot of understanding and a lot of not taking stuff personal. You know what I'm saying? Like getting out of your own feels for the relationship and getting into the feels for the friendship. Like, I think, like you're put together for a reason, and our reason that we were put together was later on to kind of help each other out when we needed to pick each other up. You see what I'm saying? Like when I was going through a divorce, she was there. You know what I'm saying? Like she was, like in a friendly way, not a, hey, let's hook up kind of way, but in a friendly way. She was really, honestly, like had a lot of good advice because she went through a divorce prior to me, like a decade prior to me. So you know, she had the lookout. She had the information I needed to get through to the other side of it because it was rough. And so you need allies like that in your life, you know what I'm saying? And they need you, you know what I'm saying? Like they really do. And so it's one of them things where you just kind of, you know, talk to yourself and say, okay, am I going to make a difference, in my life by keeping this person around? You know what I'm saying? How, and it's a selfish way of thinking, but it's honestly how we all think as human beings. Like how does this benefit me? Like, is this person funny? Does this person good to talk to? Are they great with advice? I mean, that's the, like that's why we keep people around. They entertain us. We love them. We fall in love with them. We treat them like family. A lot of people be like, "Oh, that's a sociopathic or a sociopathic way, of looking at things." But no, dude, it's the way that we are. It's the way humans are. You get into any friendship with somebody, and like you look at, like you don't really look at the benefits. You look at, like how they hang out with you and stuff like that. But you don't look the overall benefits. If you take a look from the outside, is that from one, you have somebody that is got a lot of commonalities to you. Maybe you like the same type of music. Maybe you like the same type of games. Maybe you guys enjoy hiking. Something that brought you guys together. Most of my friends were either outdoor stuff that I was involved in, athletics, music, something along that lines to that we met, and it spawned and hey, you like this too? Yeah, man. Or hey, let me introduce you to this. Get me to like things, and vice versa. Like I wouldn't have gotten into anime if it wasn't for my friends. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't really into it, but they got me into it. You see what I'm saying? They got me hooked on that shit. So I wouldn't have gotten into some of the video games that I've gotten into if it wasn't for word of mouth from my friends. I would have never been introduced to it. So, you know, it's the social aspects, and I think that we don't we take it for granted, like what our friends do for us on a daily basis. They give us that peace of mind that we're not going batshit crazy. You know what I'm saying? And or they post us up, and that's always a good thing, and that's always good to have in any relationship. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just now getting to do my bounties to steer subjects. My crazy rant. We're just now getting to do our bounties. Again, I took 3 days off. I needed to, mental health and stuff like that, kind of make a good plan going forward for my future and stuff like that. So like I said, everything's a reset with me. I just moved here. I just got a job, and then like we hit our slow time. Like hours were there for a split second during the training weeks, but I got started late in the season, so I was like at the bottom of the totem pole for a little bit. Now I'm like not exactly at the bottom, but I'm not exactly in the middle either. I'm under the radar. I lasted longer than all but one person in my class, but that dude like only shows up like whenever. Like I rarely see him. I think I show up more than he does, honestly. But I don't judge people. My job too. I know it was judging, but I was just saying like I think that like I had a class full of like 10 people, and only me and him survived the purge. It's not a difficult job. It's just logistics, and I think that's where a lot of people like. I don't know. It's not exactly rocket science, but it is a lot of work. And when you have slow seasons, the money's not there because of the weather. People don't have the money to buy things because it's just coming out of the holidays, and uh, people go crazy during the holidays. They'll like max out their credit cards and shit. I just never got that. My grandmother was like that. My grandmother had like 32 grandkids to buy for throughout the year, so I never understood how she was able to afford it until like later I found out like she inherited a whole lot of money from her mother, and she decided that what she was going to do with it was she was going to provide her family with the things that she didn't have as a girl. Well, wait a minute, how did she get this money? She, from her mother, she didn't have things as a girl. Well, to make things a little later on in life, my great grandmother made some really good real estate investments, and she bought some land that eventually um, was sold for commercial purposes for a boatload of money. And this was closer towards the end of her life that they closed on it. So I think it was like maybe a year after they closed on the house. My great grandmother passed away, and my grandmother inherited everything. Um, and I never got an exact number on it, but my dad told me because it was my mother's, my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother. My dad had told me that it was somewhere along the lines of like closer to $10 million from all of the investments that her mother made. So my grandmother retired at 43 years old, and literally sat all day at on TV and watched the fucking Home Shopping Network, and literally bought everything off of there that she wanted. It was ridiculous, and this went on forever. You know what I'm saying? Like I was a teenager and it was still going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I was a young adult. And when my grandmother died, uh, she sold her house. They bought a new one. Her boyfriend of 40 plus years passed away, and she then, of course, the house was paid off. She then paid off all of her kids' houses, and a couple months later, she passed away, and then left my cousin Rachel everything, which I thought was really sweet. My cousin Rachel deserved it. I'm not one of them like greedy fucking types. It's like I'm the oldest, but I didn't get anything. I'm not mad. It was just my grandmother explained it to me. Uh, it is a lot of tradition. Um, it's because of my grandmother was very partial to the kids that bore my grandfather's last name. So if the girls got married, of course, back then, I mean, it was very common that, still common practice today, but it's becoming less of a common practice that, but the girls would take the names. Well, my mother, of course, took my dad's name, and I was the first male born in the family, so they had a lot of time with me between, um, because the oldest girl was, I think, 5 when I was born, but she lived thousands of miles away. So, like my uncle just, he washed his hands of the family, basically. So, I can't blame him. There's a lot of drama. And so I was like the closest one that they got to see. And so my, most of my youth, I was the only grandchild. And then all of a sudden, my aunts and uncles just started having babies. Um, First grandchild was born, I think, when I was almost 4, and then my sister was shortly after that. Because I'm almost 4 years older than my sister, and then I had 2 cousins after my sister, and then there was a drought for a little bit, and then I had like then they all started popping out kids, but at the same time. So it was a mess for a little bit with the family, with grandkids. And like I said, every Christmas, what I'm saying, Anne came through, my grandmother came through every Christmas. Just, you'd be sitting there, and most of the time we would go up to her, what I'm saying, we'd visit her because she was, you know, pretty adamant on, like, wanting to cook a big ass dinner and have everybody in the family involved and so on and so forth. But when my parents got divorced, I lived 2 separate lives. Basically, I lived every other weekend with my mom for a while, and then that kind of waned because my mom had a drug addiction. So it changed over to basically most of the holidays. I would go spend with my grandmother, and we would, again, if we did, she would make up for, Christmases and stuff like that, birthdays, whatever we missed. She'd just, hand you a glob of cash and tell you go do whatever you want with it while you were down there, and that's all you were getting, pretty much. And, me and my cousins would go hang out, go do whatever, go to the mall, watch some movies, buy some video games. It's just what we did. But no, by no means was I ever spoiled, like, ever. No, no, we lived in a old ass trailer. The trailer was made a year before I was even born, and we lived about 45 miles from my grandmother. She never came down to visit after my parents separated, and she took a lot of her personal opinions out on any of the grandkids who were outside of the family. So I kind of sort of kept my distance until, what I'm saying, like I was old enough to kind of hold my own in an argument, because it was always just rhetoric with them. My mother made a lot of bad decisions, and one of the decisions was that she was gonna, enjoy drugs and alcohol over family. And what soundly happened was that it backfired on her like it should have. My grandmother, again, being loyal to, family, 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 her kids could do no wrong, even in the eyes of her grandkids. And so she made up a lot of stories, or, covered for my mom's ass a lot when she shouldn't have. You know what I'm saying? Like, she should have just been like, I don't know, would have been a more acceptable answer than, some of the answers that I was getting. So, or try to tuck it under. And that's like the compounded part about having a large family too, especially when they're that loyal. Like, I love my mom, don't get me wrong. We had a very um, on again, off again relationship, and we didn't get along most of our lives because of her decisions. You know what I'm saying? But uh, I treated her with the amount of respect that she treated me with, which was very little for a while. But some people are like, well, that's your mom. You only get one of them. You're correct. You only get one of those. And I took the time towards the end of her life, the last few years, to get to know my mom. That's plain and simple. That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? I felt like it was necessary, and that's exactly what I did. I went and I, built a relationship with my mom. You know, she had cancer. And again, I don't mind talking about personal stuff while I'm doing this. She had cancer, and she died of ovarian cancer. It was she knew about it before I knew it. Like, of course she knew about it, but she knew about it that she was terminal like a long time before. She started doing weird shit, and then it came out onto the floor to the family, and we had a serious sit down talk. And before my dad died, that was like one of my dad's wishes. He was like, you've got to work on having somewhat of a relationship with your mother. And I was like, yeah, whatever. That's what you do sometimes. It's like, yeah, whatever. But I did. And for those, again, like, um, my mom had her issues. She was mentally challenged for the latter part of her life from childbirth. She had a brain aneurysm twice, once with me and once with my middle sister. And then she really was never right after the second one. She barely made it through the first one, with when she gave birth to me. But when she gave birth to my sister, that one almost, I'm saying, that one damn near killed her. And so it did something to her, I'm saying, being in a coma, and having blood vessels and shit in your brain explode, kind of does something to you. And when you're young and full of mustard, basically, you're going to make some pretty bad, erratic statements out of spite and, just plain old just being defensive and trying to protect your own feelings. And I said a lot of shit to my mom, you know what I'm saying, in the heat of arguments that I should have never said. You know what I'm saying? And I should have been the bigger person, but I was very passionate about and angry as in my youth, and so there was a lot of disrespect there between the both of us, and it never, it never healed itself. Um, it's rough, but like, that's what happens when your parents get divorced and you get dragged into it because that's what they do. It's never right. And no, my dad tried to keep us as far away from it as possible. But my mother was like, Miss, I gotta be cold heart the truth about everything, and tell you everything your dad did wrong because your dad's not a superhero. And it's like, he already told me this. Well, not the way that I told you this. No, he told me this the way that you just told me this. Like, he didn't lie. Yeah, he told me he ran around on you. You know what I'm saying? He did not paint a very pretty picture of himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was straight up. It's like, yeah, I ran around on your mother. It's like, why? I was, he's like, I was done. He's like, I made bad decisions and I lived with them. And he's like, to the point to where I couldn't live with them no more. And then, he's like, your mother left a couple of times. He said, you remember this? And it's like, yeah, I remember that. And he's like, that's one of the times your mother left me. It's like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was going on because, they didn't argue in front of us. Not until, you know, they got, actually the day they got divorced was the first time I actually ever saw my parents argue. Um, they would take it to the bedroom. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't yell or scream. They would raise their voice a little bit, but it was never yelling. You know what I'm saying? It was always like passion. Most of the time it was my dad telling my mom that, common sense stuff. You could hear it. You know what I'm saying? But you can't help it. When you live in a mobile home, you hear everything. You hear a mouse fart. But, so, you can hear those kinds of things. And, when you're a kid, you don't want to, but, I was a tween. Like, I was like 12, so, kind of hear it, and you're just like, oh, shit. Something's going down, and you hope for the best. But I think I got to the point towards, like, the last 6 months that my parents were married that I was like, I was done. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew, like, and I told my dad, I was like, and my mom was like, it's whatever you guys decide to do. So I ended up staying with my dad. My sister went with my mom for a little bit, and my mom just couldn't handle raising, kids and having freedom. So she decided that she didn't want either, and got herself a drug charge and lost custody of my sister to my dad, which was the better option, anyways. Um, Sister went through a whole lot living with her, like the hell my mom put her through, and I can't even imagine. My sister's never really talked about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never really sat and asked. It ain't my fucking business. You know what I'm saying? I can only imagine. And, like, Dad told me it was pretty bad. Because he said he had a conversation with her, but, it's a private thing. Because, she never asked me, you know what I'm saying, like, what the breakdown of me and my mother's relationship was. She knew, like, there was just a lot of abuse there. But she never got into the semantics of it all, like what really drove it. And I told her, I was like, a lot of it boiled down to mom's mental health and mom being drunken on drugs. I was, you know, I was a kid going through puberty, not understanding myself, and when you go through puberty, you get a little rambunctious, and mom couldn't handle it, and I consistently got backhanded. Now, that there were times that, yes, I overstepped my boundaries, and I challenged my parents' authority, and I deserved every little beating that I got, because, there are some that you do deserve, and there are some that you don't deserve, and I did push the limits on, the buttons on both of my parents equally. But, there comes a time where, there's too much, and that's, there were times when my dad had to step in, and, it wasn't always just physical abuse. Sometimes it was mental abuse, and sometimes it was just flat out torture. And I'll give you guys, like, a good example. I school let out. I was excited. It was my 5th grade year, and my dad was going away for the summer because, Pops was in the military. Hey. My Pops was in the military, and with Dad being in the military, that automatically meant that he was going to go every summer to wherever the hell it was that they were going to send him, and, we weren't going to talk to him for a few months. And so that's exactly what happened. And during this time, my mom was really struggling with boozing, like really struggling with the boozing. And me and my sister got into an argument, and, being the stupid, I think it was like 10 or 11 at this time, being the stupid 10 or 11-year-old that I was, I fell into the argument with my sister, and we wound up getting into a shoving match, and my mom got pissed off and grounded me for the summer. Now, for those of you that have ever heard your parents ground you for an unruly amount of time, most of the time it's never serious. I thought the same thing. I thought, it'll be a week and I'll be outside. No. it went from me being grounded to the house to me being grounded to my room to everything being taken out of my room except for books, to even the books being taken out of my room, because every she would look for things, you know what I'm saying, like look for things to punish me for. I'd come in and there was dryer lint on my floor from where I picked my laundry up, and I was folding my laundry and had an opportunity to pick up the dryer lint. I got another week tacked on. You know what I'm saying? Like shit like that. So, and my dad knew I got grounded because he was there to enforce my mom's will. He didn't understand it. It's like they get into their kids, they're gonna get into a fight. But he said, all right, he's gonna be grounded for a week. No big deal. Dad come home on he goes to go put his gear in the shed, and he sees boxes in the shed with piled up. I mean, like boxes in the shed that weren't there before. Because my dad's tools were in the shed. You see what I'm saying? So my boxes of all of my stuff that my mom had taken out were now in front of his tool chest. So my dad asked, "What the hell is all this?" And my mom was like, "It's your son's stuff." And my dad was like, "Why is all my son's stuff packed into the living room or into the garage? What's going on?" And she's like, "Well, why don't you go back there and ask himself?" So Dad walked back there and see my room was bare, nothing in it except for the bed. And my dad asked me what happened, and my mom, who was sitting at the door, was just staring me down. You know what I'm saying? Waiting for me to slip up and say something that like possibly rat her out. And my dad noticed it. And I noticed that I wasn't talking. You know what I'm saying? Like I was kind of mumbling. And he said, "Hey, Becky," my mom's name was Becky. He's like, "Becky, I think you need to leave for a second. I need to have a conversation with my son." And my mom got offended. You know what I'm saying? And my mom was like, "Whatever he's going to tell you, he's just full of shit. He's been bad all summer." And then she walked off. And Dad said, "All right, well, what really happened?" And I told him, you know what I'm saying? Like we got, when I got grounded, this happened, and then they would tack on more and then more and more. He's like, "So you're telling me you have not been out at all, here it is, like, last week of July, all right? And school's fixing to start in the middle of August, you know what I'm saying?" And my dad's like, "You've been grounded the entire time I've been away." Yep. I said, "Exactly." And he said, "Go put your fucking shoes on and go outside." So I go and I put my shoes on and I walk out to the front door. My mom looks at me and says, "Where the hell do you think you're headed?" And my dad looks at my mom straight up and he says, "My son's going outside because he has been locked in his room all summer, and that is not good. It's not good for his mental health. It's not good for his social skills. You do not ground any child for that long." He said, "We're going to have a talk." And that's kind of when it all started. And from that point, like that was just like one of the instances that my mom would bring up in an argument, like you got grounded all summer, and I'm like, "Well, yeah, because you were a fucking psychopath and a drug addict." You know what I'm saying? It's like I didn't do anything, but it was just like little shit. Like she would look for things to nitpick, and the dad told me, he said the straw that broke the camel's back, he said, was your 11th birthday. So my 11th birthday happened, and my mom woke up in the morning. My dad left money on the counter for my mom to go have her best friend take her to the store and pick her up cake and stuff for my birthday party. He was going to pick up my birthday gift. Well, my mom decided that they were going to party. It was my birthday. They were going to get sloshed on my birthday. So my mom commences to smoking a little bit of weed and drinking a little bit of alcohol, and in the process gets a little too drunk, starts the cake in the afternoon, and they were playing music, and the vibration from the speakers caused the cake to fall. Now, those that are baking or aficionados, when the cake falls, it's the worst thing ever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's the worst catastrophe that can ever happen. What a cake falling is like when you're making anything like bread or that's a cake or pastry. The dough gets full of air when you mix it, and it aerates, and then it comes up. and you can't really, like, you really don't want to have it around a lot of vibration, a lot of sound. You don't want to be opening and closing the oven a whole lot, because during, that particular process where the dough is still kind of hard and kind of soft, it can collapse the walls, and then the cake just it's no longer flat, basically. In the pan, it's like a sinkhole where the air bubbles just kind of disappear and it settled. And that happens during the baking process, and that's exactly what happened. My mom was playing loud music, didn't, just wasn't paying attention, and it fell. Well, she got frustrated, and she pulled the first pan out, threw the cake pan in the sink, and then went to the store and bought another cake and baked it. But and then didn't have the wherewithal to clean it up before I got home. Well, I get home, and my mom and her best friend, they were pranksters, just synonymous for pulling absolutely horrible pranks on each other. And so they thought that, now would be the time to kind of, uh, mess with me a little bit. Now, again, I'm 11 years old. I'm an emotional 11-year-old. I really don't understand myself from the freaking, pastel print on the wall, let alone, like how to control my emotions. So I come home, and immediately mom, like, starts getting really shitty towards me. And then she looks at me and she says, your birthday is ruined. I baked you a cake and it fell in the oven, and that's your birthday cake. You're not getting anything for your birthday. You were bad last summer. So she brings up the summer that I got grounded. You see what I'm saying? You were bad last summer. We're not having a party. Nobody's invited over. Your birthday is canceled. You need to go to your room and do your homework and think about everything wrong that you've ever done. I I lost it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I immediately, like, because I invited my friends over, you know what I'm saying? Like, now I'm going to have to make all these phone calls here when I get my homework done to tell everybody that my birthday party's canceled because, my cake failed. And so I'm a little emotional. And I didn't say nothing, you know what I'm saying? Because, again, like, I'm 11 years old, and I'm trying to, you know, uh, let it kind of sink in, like what really is happening. I'm getting mad. I'm getting emotional about it. My mom's going back there and, just like badgering me, oh, you're going to cry. You're going to cry. You're not a real man. Real men don't cry. Like shit like that kind of stuff. And again, she's drunk and, on drugs. And so this goes on all the way up until my dad gets home. And I am a wreck. My room's destroyed, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just had a fucking breakdown. And my dad found out about it, like that they were, like, my mom told my dad, like, the cake fell. I had to, make an emergency run to the store, and he's in his room. He's mad, you know what I'm saying? He's being emotional because we've been ribbing him about it the entire time. And so here comes dad, you know what I'm saying? Comes into the room, asks me, what's going on? I tell him what's going on, and he's like, no, this is bullshit. So him and my mom, after everything was said and done, birthday party was over, I went to bed. Dad told me him and her got into a huge argument over that. He said that's when I knew it was done. He said the following year, he said everything just started trickling from that point. He said, but your birthday party, he said your 11th birthday party, he said that's when I knew I was ready for a divorce. He said, the woman that I loved and respected and cherished, he said, is now disrespecting, my son, the kid, the young man that she gave birth to, that she swore that she would, protect and cherish, is now the target of her, pranks and aggression. And he's like, I was done with that. He's like, that kind of abuse, that doesn't happen, not in my household. So they got into it one night, and she pulled the, he's being, called the cops, he's being aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. So my dad was friend with all the cops. I mean, all of the cops. They, told him, you just told him, hey, look, go hang out somewhere for the night, come back in the morning. Because he was worried. He was like, he was afraid my mom was going to disappear in the night and then take kids. But he came back the next morning, and they had a talk, and that's when I stayed. A lot of again, like I said, it's little things, and I was young. You know what I'm saying? And some of these people are like, man, that's fucking monstrous. Your mom was a fucked up individual. Yeah, she was. You know what I'm saying? She was, but she wasn't her. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not the woman that I grew up with. That's not the woman that gave birth to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that woman changed, from, and I noticed it probably when I was about 8 years old. You know what I'm saying? That's when it started. You know what I'm saying? Like, because when I was like, first starting school and, doing all this stuff, as a young child, my mom was always there. You know what I'm saying? Baseball practices, mom was there. You know what I'm saying? Uh, Summer camps and stuff like that, my mom was there. But then all of a sudden, like, he's like, I was 8 and she wasn't there no more. And that's about the time my grandfather passed away. And that sent her over the edge. And again, it's tragedies, man. And again, when you're young, you don't look at these things. And even when you're a young adult, you don't understand the severity of these tragedies that can affect somebody's mental health. You know what I'm saying? When their mental health is already hung on by a very, very fine thread. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, dude, I learned a lot from my mom. So, people can question. It's like, men don't really talk about abuse. Why? Because it doesn't make us feel good. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody likes to like dredge up old memories, but for a guy, it's a lot personal. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, our abusers are the people that are the closest to us. Could be a family member, could be a ball coach. You know what I'm saying? Could be aunt or an uncle. But the ones that physically, a parent, but the ones that physically abuse us are usually the closest ones to us, the ones that we love, the ones that we don't suspect that are going to do it. And the abuse patterns sometimes, I mean, you don't realize that it's happening until it's happening. You know what I'm saying? Or until after it's happened. Like, should that have happened? Did I deserve that kind of stuff? You start questioning that, rather than saying, well, I didn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. No, correct. Nobody deserves that. But, you don't think about it when it's happening. It just happens. And there's honestly, like the aftermath of it. And I went through a lot of counseling, anger management courses. I had my moments as a young adult, you know what I'm saying, but I managed to keep my nose clean. And a lot of it was motivation to not be like my parents, you know what I'm saying, like not take the road that they traveled because I didn't think that was a very good road for them, you know what I'm saying. And do I think that I've lived up to their standards? No, not at all. I think I've done better than my mom, but as far as like my dad goes, like my dad and me were very different. Um, my dad was a family man, and I knew probably by about 26, 27 that was just not in the cards for me. Um, my dad was structured. Um, Everything had a place and everything had a reason to be there. You know what I'm saying? He didn't like clutter, even though he lived with the most unorganized person I'd ever met, which was my stepmom. Um, he was organized, she was not. It drove him nuts. So he organized everything. I mean, it was like what made their relationship work. But he changed a lot of himself for his family. You know what I'm saying? Because he was a family man. He had his first kid at 23 years old, had his career, already knew what his future looked like. He was becoming successful. Was learning, was willing to, adapt to different situations. My dad was a really good person. You know what I'm saying? He was a people person. I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love people, but I am not as social as he was. Um, so yeah, that's the difference between the both of us now. Like, he instilled a lot of good value in me and a lot of good moral belief and structure. Being, how to be a man, but he he was from a generation that didn't show weakness. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never really seen my dad cry, you know what I'm saying, until I was pretty much a young adult, like, ever. Like, I, when my maternal grandfather died, and my dad and my maternal grandfather were, like, ultra close, like, best of friends, like, him and my uncle Mike, who married into the family, were all real close together when my grandfather was alive. And when my grandfather died, I didn't see my dad cry. Like, my dad told me, "Oh yeah, I cried." He's like, he's like, "I just didn't cry in front of y'all." He's like, "But yeah, I cried." He's like, "Al was my best friend. You know what I'm saying? He was my mentor. He's the reason why I became a mechanic." You know, anytime that me and your mother, I felt like me and your mother might be on the rocks. He's like, Al came through like a G. Saved mine and your mother's relationship multiple times. He's like, anytime I felt my head, my head was too far up my ass, Al would pull it out. So grandfather was a good man. He's like, he had his own demons, but he battled them, but he was a good man. And so, you know, it was different from that generation. My dad was a tough dude. You're born tough. You don't, you know, it's hard to say, like, because I don't know, like, you're not really, like, people say you can't become tough through life. I feel like, it's something that's not learned, but it is actually. It's more like you're filtered to be tough. I think it's like the best way to look at it. Because things in life, man, like I was really just a super nice and super soft guy, and like really caring, and then life happened. Your experiences in life will dictate like how you treat others. And there was an era in my life where, I mean, I hated myself. It's like, God, man, you're so mean. It's like, dude, you don't need to be mean to people. But I was. Not anymore. I love people now. Not all people, but most. They're like, oh, you love everybody. You can't trust everybody. No, I don't trust people. I don't trust everybody. But, my love for humanity has grown. And, I have some people have this like negative connotation about like generations, like, oh, that we're doomed because and I heard it when I was young, like, oh God, we're so screwed when your generation takes over. It's like, my generation wasn't bad. I'm a Gen Xer, you know what I'm saying? I like, my generation wasn't bad. It was just Gen X. Good Lord, the lag is so bad in this game right now, and it's not me streaming. It's legit. Like, it's game lag. Like, you can tell the difference when it's like stream lag. Like, you get a different jump. This is input lag. I'm sure they're getting attacked again. I can only imagine, because like that's almost like 4 seconds behind. Good Lord, that lag is so bad. It's either me lagging from their servers or their server is lagging on my end. I don't know. I'm almost done with all this shit though. I just wanted to do it on Oda. I'm not going to touch Ray today. I'm going to take a little bit of a break for the week and just focus on Oda and playing Once Human. I really wish I could stream that game. I actually wish I could stream more of my games, but we're going to have to wait until we get something a little more powerful. I've been looking at some laptops. It's my next big purchase. Getting a laptop and then getting a desktop later on. Afterwards. I miss having my desktop, honestly. I like miss sitting at the chair. you know, having my microphone and all of my studio and equipment and shit set up there. It bothers me not having that. And a lot of people, you know, it's like, oh, you don't understand, dude. Like I miss it. You know, you get used to having something and you go from something that's like super ultra powerful to like, you know, no, to a laptop that's, you know, it's not barely hanging on, but it's just older. You know, it's a world of difference. It's like, God, I never. It's the first time I've been without a desktop too since 1996. Actually, 1994. So we didn't have a desktop for a year. We had some money issues in 93, 94. We had a bad storm come through, and insurance didn't cover it. So all of the shit came out of pocket, and our desktop died from the storm. So we went a year without a desktop, and then when we finally got one, I was so glad. I was like, oh, so it's killing me, you know what I'm saying, to be even on a laptop playing, but you know, you get used to it when it's the only thing you have. It's like, if I had the credit, I'd go out and buy a new one, but I got credit cards I gotta pay off, which will get paid off eventually. And that's what I'm gonna do. I'll pay off my credit card and then save up and, you know, use my credit card and cash to go get a nice laptop, and then over a few paychecks, like, you know, get a bigger hard drive, memory, and shit like that for it. So that way, you know, it'll be around a lot longer. This is what I did with this one. I bought it and then came back a week later and voided the warranty by simply buying memory and a bigger, way bigger hard drive. And then with this one, I'll just probably keep this one around for streaming. You know what I'm saying? Like playing video or maybe light gaming and some streaming. You know, like use this to stream my shows on while I game on my other laptop. You know what I'm saying? Have dual screen or use it for backup recording. I don't know yet. Got options. I think, you know, I think a positive part. And once I get a desktop, I'll retire this laptop fully. It'll become a relic. It's kind of what I got planned. It's like, you know, because I got to get a new vehicle too. Don't get me wrong, I do. But vehicles are easy to come by, and like people think they're expensive, but they're really not. Like for the price of a good gaming laptop, I can put a down payment on a car. See what I'm saying? So it's a couple paychecks. I have to have a form of entertainment, otherwise I will be batshit crazy. And like I said, this one's most certainly close to its last year of service. Oh, you know what I mean? That last year of service. Well, if you take a look at your laptop, and every year, what you need to do is you need to memorize the video cards. There's and what years they came out. That's how I do it. So, for example, right now, most games minimum system requirements are either like a 1050 Ti or a 1060. That video card came out somewhere around the longs of like 2015, 2016. So that's where the industry is right now for the minimum system requirements is gear that's 8 years old or newer. You see what I'm saying? Which is, you know, it's relevant. But what you do is, like, as it was going up, I was like, okay, so the system, like last year, most of the game system requirements were like, you know, 950, 960. So I was like, all right, you know, like next year they're going to have, you know, the game requirements are going to be like at or above where I'm at now. And it's exactly what happened. So each year you own your laptop, you know. So the more, and this is why you buy a much more expensive graphics card, you know what I'm saying, is so that you can keep that device around a lot longer. Desktops are different. Desktops, because you can change out the video cards, unless there's like a dynamic change in technology, like some sort of like motherboard security, or you go from like DDR3 to DDR4, DDR4 to DDR5, DDR5 to DDR6. Unless there's like a significant change in technology, you can typically double the lifespan on a desktop if you properly maintain it and keep it protected. You dust it, you clean it, you keep it plugged into either a battery backup or a surge protector, and you work your ass off on keeping that thing from falling apart. You do your upgrades and you change your video card out every time that it's antiquated, because that's 90% of the problem. So I ran a desktop for well over 12 years. Same desktop. I built it myself from the ground up. Had the design, bought all of top of the line everything at the time, and the only thing that I ever needed to change out over the course of the 12 years of owning that desktop, and I retired that desktop 2 years ago, mind you. So this will tell you, it's like a bulldozer, AMD bulldozer processor, hell of a processor. Um, I retired that desktop 2 years ago because I got a brand new one for my birthday, but it was still going. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing. It's just now, the CPU is just now hitting minimum system requirements. You see, so um, when the only thing I changed out again was the graphics card and the power supply and hard drives when they would go bad. You know what I'm saying? Like I would buy hard drives. I'd buy a new hard drive like once every 3 years, and I would keep it on standby. And the moment that I noticed the master drive was slowing down, I'd swap it. You know what I'm saying? I'd just do a complete new OS on the drive in the box, and then take the old drive out, copy everything over, format it, and use it as a backup. Smart moving. We're smart thinking, but it works. You know what I'm saying? All right, fingers crossed. You guys have been my good luck charm, YouTube. Every time that I get 2 or 3, except for the other day. Well, not every time, but you guys have been witness to me pulling 5-star gems more times than when I'm by myself. So you guys are my good luck charm. Don't fail me. What we need, okay? And if you guys, if the YouTube and RNGesus out there can cross your fingers for me, I would like to pick up a 5-star Colossus engine or 2 blood-soaked Jades. If you can do that, if you can do the blood-soaked Jades, that would be cool. A 5 out of 5 blood-soaked Jade would be better, because I've already got a blood-soaked Jade. I just need 2 more so I can rank it to level 4 and be done with it. I'll go up 10 res, and I'll get good movement speed. So here comes the moment of truth, folks. White box, white box, white box. Come on, white box. White box, white box, white box. Turn right, turn right. Nope. That's 2 bloody reaches. Well, we tried. Alright. Well, folks, I'm jumping off here. Y'all have a good one. Thank you guys for tuning in. I love you. Be good. Be good at it.